Okay, chapter 13, and the boys are possibly about to get in a little bit of trouble. The boys had a nice lunch with the chief and Officer Marks at Miller's. This could get to be a nice habit, they thought, but the idea of getting spoiled never occurred to two 10-year-old boys. They just decided to enjoy it while they could. They got back to the station, dropped the chief off, and then Officer Marks gave the boys rides home. It was nice to be home. Ben went home and asked his mom if she needed him, and if not, he would be at Timmy's house. She said he was fine to go, but to let her know if they were heading out somewhere else for the day. He told her that was fine. At Timmy's house, the boys tried to strategize about their next move. Maybe Lieutenant Weldy could come up with some new tips about the Allens and an idea of a new possible drop site for the money. The boys could not stop thinking that maybe, just maybe, the money was hidden at the Allen farm somewhere. But where on the farm? How could they ever find out? They wondered if it was too dangerous for them to go out there under some pretense and just check out the comings and goings of the family. It sure could be if the family got suspicious of the boys' reasons for being out that way. They looked at the map again and saw that there was a decent-sized river that ran close to the back of the Allen property, as it ran by some hiking trails, an old abandoned grist mill, and had some fairly steep ridges close to the river itself. They decided to get some fishing poles and make like they were just going fishing down by the river and see if they could see the house from there, and make their way by the house out to the road like they were just walking home. That wouldn't be too dangerous, they thought, just a couple of boys going fishing. They got dressed in some older clothes and then got their bikes, leaving Rusty at home. They headed down to Bob's Sporting Goods, and they each had about $15 of grass-cutting money to buy some supplies for fishing. They just needed some cheap rods, a couple of bobbers, fish hooks, and some fake worms to look official. That worked out just fine. They put their gear in the baskets at the rear of Timmy's bike and headed out. They headed out of town, riding on the side of the highway, being very careful of the traffic, which was very light for the day. On the map, they took a ride down a side road about half a mile up from the Allen's farm and found a path that led to some hiking trails along the side of the river. They did manage to hide their walkie-talkie in a backpack, but kept it turned off, but it was fully charged. Once they got to the path, they decided just to walk the path, but to keep their bikes with them. It was a little hard at times, as the paths were not flat, and it took some effort to pull the bikes up some of the hills, but they managed okay. They went past the old stone grist mill and took a break. They then just took a look around inside to see if there might be a hiding place that the Allens might have used there. It didn't appear so, and it was not very secure to leave a large amount of money for any length of time. It was also very open to the weather there. They moved on and up to the left, as they could see a farmhouse set back about 2 football fields in length from the river. That must be the Allen farm, they thought. The boys looked around and saw a path from the river that looked like it might lead up and past the farm. They laid their bikes down, took out their fishing gear, pulled out some line, put on a bobber, and then baited their hooks with their fake rubber worms. It was really all they knew about fishing anyway. They took turn after turn, casting the lines into the river and reeling them back in. This lasted about half an hour, and they were getting the hang of getting the line out further into the river. They thought it might look like they actually knew what they were doing. Then they had heard rustling up the pathway behind them. They turned and saw it was two men who had poles as well. "Well, look what we have here," said one of the men. He had on an old plaid shirt, dirty jeans, and cowboy boots with an old straw hat. Both had fishing poles with them, and had come down to do some fishing on their own. The other man was better dressed, with newer jeans, a blue denim shirt, and a tan vest, and a much nicer brown baseball hat with no logo on it. The better dressed man spoke. "Bob," he said to the other man, "it looks like some fellas found our favorite fishing spot," he stated. "Jack," the other man said, "I think you're right," he said with a smile. "You boys down here trying to steal our fish?" he asked with a laugh. "No, sir," said Timmy with some nervousness in his voice. "No," also said Ben. "We just came down to try out our new gear, as we are pretty new to this fishing stuff," he added. "It's okay, boys," said Bob. "We just don't get to see too many people out this way, as if it's a little bit of a hike, isn't it?" he asked. "Yes, sir, it is," said Timmy. "We just saw the river on our map and thought we might give it a try. Is it okay for us to be here?" asked Timmy. "We don't mean to be a bother," added Ben. "No, you are fine to come here any time," said Jack. "It's pretty good fishing, but try and find a place where the water doesn't run so quick, as the fish like the quieter water. Like that spot about 30 feet to your right, that quiet spot," he added. "Go over there and take a crack at it," he stated. "Okay," said Ben, as the boys moved over that way and recast their lines into the water. The boys were somewhat concerned, but tried not to show it. "You boys been fishing long?" asked Bob. "No, sir," replied Timmy. "Today is our very first day, and we just thought we would try. We didn't spend much money, as we weren't sure if we were going to like it or not." "It takes a while to get good at it, so don't give up too fast," added Jack. "You have to start somewhere and work at it. Sometimes we come down here for an hour and don't catch anything. Other times we're here for 50 minutes and catch 5 or 6. You never know," he said. He asked Timmy if he could see his pole, and Timmy handed it to him. Jack began. "Well, first we have to fix this." He went into his tackle box and took out some gray-looking metal and put it on Timmy's line about 4 feet down from the bobber, just about near where his rubber worm was. He laughed. "I'm not sure these fish here like rubber worms," he said. "You can try, though. Now this weight will pull your line down lower in the water where the fish will be, and if you see your bobber dipping up and down in the water, kind of going up and down, you might have caught a fish on your hook," he stated. "Ben, give me your pole, and I'll fix yours as well," he added. "Now let's see if any of us can catch anything," said Bob. The two men threw their lines in about 15 feet to the left of the boys. They all sat quietly. "Thanks for helping us out," said Timmy. "We might have been here for hours doing the wrong thing and not even caught an old shoe," he said. The men started laughing. "Not sure if there are any old shoes out here, but there are some good trout once in a while, and some catfish," he stated. "Have you boys ever cut up a fish before?" Jack asked. "No, sir," added Ben. "And we haven't even touched a real live fish before," he said. "Well, you two are a couple of city boys, aren't you?" laughed Bob as he tipped his old hat back on his head. That may be a little bit too much excitement for your first fishing trip," added Jack. "If you catch anything, we'll do it for you the first time." "Deal," said Timmy. "Not sure I'm ready for that," he added, as they sat quietly for a while. Bob pulled out a cigarette and lit it. "You boys smoke?" asked Bob. "No, sir," said Ben. "Good," said Jack. "Don't start it. It's a very bad habit for you, and a waste of good money," he added. "I've been trying to get Bob Allen here to quit for years, but no luck," he added. Now the boys knew they were getting close to something, or maybe trouble, but tried to act very natural. They knew their plan was working, but they still have to be very careful. They all fished and sat quietly, casting and recasting after no luck. Then Bob got a bite on his line and slowly tried to reel it in. He had about a 4-pound trout on his line, but it was a fighter. "Easy," said Jack. "Don't pull him in too fast and break your line. We're in no hurry," he said. Bob took his time and slowly reeled in his line and finally was able to get him up on the shore and into his bucket. "Well, I'll be," he said. "Haven't caught anything in a week, so this is better than nothing," he added with a big smile. He took the hook out of the fish's mouth and left him flopping in the small bucket of water. The boys laid their poles down and went over to take a look. "Pretty nice fish," said Ben. "Never saw a live fish before that wasn't on TV," he said with a laugh. "Me either," said Timmy. "Well," said Bob, "you boys have had quite a first day seeing your first live fish. Pretty exciting stuff," he added. "Well, something like that," added Timmy. "You want to touch him?" asked Bob. "No, I'll pass," said both of the boys. "Well, you know, at some point, you're going to have to touch the fish to get him off your line, right?" asked Bob, and Jack started laughing. "Too much reality for one day, hey, boys?" he added. They all stayed for about another half an hour, and then called it quits. As the boys picked up their gear and put it in Timmy's basket, Jack said they could follow him and Bob back up towards the farm and get on the main road quicker. That trail went right by the house. He told the boys that any time they wanted to come back, they just had to come up by the farmhouse, and they would not have to deal with all the hills on the hiking trails. The boys agreed and thanked them. They walked quietly up the trail and to the farmhouse. Outside in the yard were various pieces of farm equipment: tractors, wagons, 3 broken-down cars, and an old white panel truck with dirty windows. It would be hard to say if any of them ran. Timmy asked, "Do you still farm out here?" "No, not anymore," said Jack. "Dad is too old, and it is just Bob out here anymore with Mom and Dad. Dad is pretty sick and on oxygen now, but still can get around with his walker some. Mom, sadly, is stuck in a wheelchair, and that is why there's a ramp on the back steps. I come out here and help when I can." "Gee, sorry to hear that," said Ben. "My other 3 brothers and cousin are still in prison," said Bob. "They will be getting out soon, a couple of months, I think," he added. "Oh," said Tommy, "that is too bad." "Well, their own darn fault," said Jack. "The fools tried to rob a bank in town a long time ago. Did you boys hear about it?" "Before our time," said Ben, to make small talk. "We are 10 and in the 5th grade at school." "Well, it was about 10 years ago, so you probably wouldn't know anything about it then," said Bob. "They are talking about pulling out of here and heading out to Wyoming or somewhere, they said last week when I went out to see them," added Bob. "Said they had some money set aside so they could make it work." The boys did not know what to say and just kept quiet. Nothing said was better than making a mistake. I've kept their old car up on blocks in the garage and changed the oil once a year and ran it every other day to make sure it still works, stated Bob. Doesn't look like much, but it should get them out west, if that's what they want, he added. It would be nice if they stayed and helped with Mom and Dad, as I have had to do it all these years on my own, he said with great sadness in his voice. I still live in town, added Jack, but still work there, but do come out when I can. I own the old Gulf gas station on Windsor Street. The boys used to work there until the bank deal went south. They always had some scheme, he added. Not the brightest bulbs in the box, he stated brusquely. Well, you boys take care, and maybe I'll see you out here when you come again. Well, thanks for the fishing tips, and maybe next time we'll touch a fish, said Timmy with a laugh. Maybe, said Ben, but I'm not promising. The two men laughed. Okay, take care, boys, said Bob and Jack. See you next time and come back any time, said Bob. I enjoyed the company. Bye, said the boys, who were glad to be leaving as they walked their bikes out to the road. Phew, I'm glad to be out of there, said Ben. Me too, said Timmy, as they got to the road and started riding faster and faster back to town. They did have something to tell the chief, but he may not be too happy how they found out.